What's good, everybody? This is Solo, and you're watching Joburg Today.
With over 250 arrests made from the 12 raids so far, the City of Johannesburg, in conjunction with the SAPS, is leaving no stone unturned in ensuring that hijacked buildings are either returned to their rightful owners or restored by the city as part of their inner city rejuvenation program, which aims to afford the people of Johannesburg with cheap and safe inner city accommodation. Well, our team attended a raid today. Leroy experienced all the action firsthand.
It's 10 a.m. and the City of Johannesburg's Forensics Investigation Unit, alongside the South African Police Services, move room to room in search of illegal contraband and wanted criminals, some of whom are responsible for taking over some of the dilapidated buildings in the area.
It's an intervention that involves both the crime prevention and, for the city to know or have the data of the people that are staying in these buildings. What we gathered as group forensics is that people are staying in these buildings, they are paying a lot of money. You'd find that some of them are paying 700 rands, 800 rands, some are paying 600 rands, which is the same amount of money which one could be able to pay while staying in a much better facility developed by Joshco. So we are actually saying to the people to say, do you really want to continue and stay in the squalor? Or would you rather find yourself being accommodated in a much better facility? So it's important for us as the city, as we take in the data of the number of people that are staying there, we're actually trying to establish as to how many of them would be able to afford accommodation, low-cost accommodation. And whilst we're doing that, we actually making sure that when we roll out the properties for redevelopment, we would know exactly as to how many of those people would be able to be, accommodated either in Joshco facilities or how many are actually indigents that are in total need of, accommodation. In as much as the City of Johannesburg Revenue Department is mandated to ensure that they do collections, we have found that in most properties there's illegal connections of electricity and other services as well. So when we do our investigations as group forensic, we've actually established that whilst the revenue give instructions to have the services being terminated, there are corrupt activities that are actually happening where you'd find that the people that are supposed to ensure that the services are actually disconnected, they would go back and reconnect and then, they pocket the money. So the city finds itself in a situation whereby a lot of buildings that owing the city a lot of money, and as they're owing the city a lot of money, it's difficult for the city to recoup from people that which are not, in a means to can be able to pay for that. But there are other properties where you'd find that the occupiers themselves, without the owner being there, do collect monies. But because you'd find that the property is already sitting over 1 million, 2 million plus, and they're unable to actually pay off that amount in arrears, they would actually pay that particular individual so much so that they would be able to have, the lights and the water. So that is some of the challenges that we've been experiencing. But because of that, with this project of the inner city rejuvenation, we are actually going to tackle those kind of buildings as well. Not only the buildings that are hijacked and not compliant with the city's bylaws, but also the buildings that are owing the city a lot of money. They will also be targeted. The engagements that we had internally as the city's departments was that it's very important for the owners to report that the property is hijacked with the department, the revenue department, and they would be given or provided with a reference number, which then they need to utilize once they get their property back, so that that amount of, the services that were consumed during the time when the property has been hijacked, they are not liable for it. But in instances whereby our department does not have any record that indicate that in truth and in fact you came to our department as revenue to report that your property is hijacked and therefore you cannot be liable for such consumption or usage of those services, it becomes a bit difficult for our revenue department to assist.
When asked on whether these properties would be returned back to their owners, the director of the Properties Hijacking Investigations Unit had this to say.
I think it depends on the merits of each and every matter. Because, for example, if we're talking about the buildings or the properties that were handed over last night, Those are privately owned properties wherein owners have lost control of their properties from the hijackers. So what they did, they came to us and reported to us to say that there are people that have actually, deprived us, of our enjoyment of our properties, and we would want you to assist us in investigating these matters. Whilst they have the responsibility as well to approach the courts and evict the illegal occupiers. In those circumstances, remember the owner came, he says, I want assistance, and these are the merits, and these are the steps that I've taken to try and gain control of my property. That is his property. We are not intending to take it back, to take it from them. Remember, we've got different categories of this kind of properties that are problematic. Properties whereby we find that the owners cannot be traced and abandoned. Those are the properties that the city will definitely just take it back and release it for redevelopment. And we would decide in terms of the action that we would actually take when we actually taking the property. When I'm saying that action, I'm talking the legal processes, whether we're expropriating, whether we are actually liquidating the debt, or whatever the case may be. Every matter will be dealt with in accordance with the merits which it actually presents.
I'm Lira Viaji for Joburg Today.